Hey, it's Zave. I was a Iuno hater. Alright, maybe hater is like too strong of a word, but I wasn't really impressed with her. She didn't really interest me throughout the Septimon story, and I had no intention of delving into her character until I played her quest. That was one hell of an experience. Iuno is definitely good in my book now, so let's talk about why, and let's talk about the update as a whole, starting with the lady herself. There are three things that are essential when making a good gacha character. Number one is the writing and characterization. Number two is the design and visuals, including the animations and special effects. And number three are the characters' gameplay, how fun they are to play and how good they are. A character must have at least one of these three categories checked off in order to be worth pulling. Iuno knocks all three out the park with ease. Her characterization and writing are phenomenal. She feels like a unique character with her own personality, quirks, thoughts, and opinions. Despite effectively being a major plot device, Kuro put a lot of work into making sure that Iuno feels like a person. Her teasing and sarcastic nature, her overwhelming confidence and playful demeanor not only make her an amazing counterpart to Augusta, but also a fun character to interact with. Her design and visuals are both great. When she was first teased, one of the criticisms I had was, let me just drop a crazy, fiery hot take right here. I think she should have been way more covered up. I know, but hear me out. When you think of a priestess in other games and media, they're usually wearing some type of ceremonial robe, maybe a hood, a veil, a mask, a scarf, something along those lines. But Iuno doesn't have any of that. I can't really get an idea of who she is or what role she serves from her design alone. The only thing I can think of is maybe they made her this naked on purpose. Like, her whole character is gonna be about defying expectations, breaking norms and boundaries, or something along those lines. I don't fucking know. And it turns out I was kinda spot on. A big aspect of Iuno's character ended up being about defying expectations, fighting fate, and being an overall rebel. She even says word for word, "I've always hated rules and all that order and dull obedience." Suffocating. So her outfit showing that much skin despite being a divine priestess of sorts is totally in character in my opinion. Her animations and special effects are also top tier. She straight up has some of the coolest special effects in the entire game, and the water transition when using her forte, unmatched. I love her method of fighting too. Iuno is essentially a stance swapper. When she's not using her forte, she's grounded for the most part, utilizing a lot of acrobatic flips and kicks, and uses her moon disc as a melee weapon. But when you activate her forte, she becomes an AC-130, flying through the sky and shooting down enemies from a safe distance. Her moon disc going from a melee weapon to a powerful ranged bow. I love characters who combine multiple styles of fighting in their animations. In terms of effectiveness, Iuno is also a top tier. She can do well on her own as a main DPS, but she really shines as a buffer and sub DPS, being able to be heavily utilized in both arrow focused teams and heavy attack focused teams. So she's well written, enjoyable to interact with, great design, great gameplay, beautiful animations, and a potent character in the meta. She passes with flying colors. But enough about Iuno. Let's talk about what this update brought narratively, which is also about Iuno. If you don't remember, don't worry because nobody really does. That's right, everybody has forgotten Iuno except for us. We walk around as everyone is enjoying the festivities and come across a priestess who is giving a retelling of events. We notice that she isn't including Iuno at all though, even going as far as to attribute all of Iuno's contributions to us. When we ask about Iuno, the priestess claims that she never even heard of that name. Apparently nobody has. Even Augusta has no recollection of Iuno, only us and Abby. Obviously something's wrong. Abby confirms that he remembers everything Iuno did during the expedition, so we know we aren't crazy. It only takes a second of reflection for us to decide that this isn't really how we're gonna let the story end. Iuno told us herself that she doesn't want to be forgotten, and yet that's exactly what happened. We head back to the temple to try and find a trace of Iuno, and we do, but we also find my GOAT, Avidius. He's probably my favorite character in this entire Septimon narrative. He's currently going through a mental crisis as he realizes that not only are his achievements doctored, but his whole existence is. He then asks the question, if someone is fabricated into reality, and others are convinced that they really exist, does that make them any less real? Essentially, is the method of someone's creation the defining factor in the validity of their existence? We don't get a chance to continue the conversation though, because Grandma Lilibet pulls up. Lilibet shows up and we talk with her about Iuno. She says she has no recollection of Iuno. However, there are records of someone named Iuno dying a few years ago in a dark tide attack. We eventually come to the conclusion that Iuno is in some type of purgatory. We call it the chaos between life and death. Long story short, Iuno sacrificed not just her life, but her existence in order to ensure that we would win our battle with the Sovereign, a death that should not have happened for a victory that was unforetold. But that leaves one question: why? Iuno told us that she never wanted to be forgotten. So why would she choose to sacrifice her very existence? That's what we find out throughout this quest. Iuno didn't just want to sacrifice her life. She rewrote history and wiped herself from everyone's memories. So she's not dead and in the afterlife. She's stuck in a purgatory of sorts. We can't let our dear love Iuno just disappear like that. So like the main character we head into the chaos to find Iuno's soul. For the next hour or so, we go through Iuno's memories in life. We find out why she gave up her ability to see the strings of fate, and why she detests her powers, and why she made the decision to erase herself. And there's one major theme we see again and again throughout this entire game's narrative, and it's Rover convincing someone that there is always another way. It happened with Jinshi, it happened with Carlotta, it happened with Chiacona, it happened with Kartithia, it happened with Cantarella, and now it's happening with Iuno. There is always another option, and so we help Iuno overcome the hopelessness that comes with her fate-seeing abilities as she stands up to fight fate itself and defies it, successfully pulling herself out of purgatory and returning to the mortal realm. So that's the gist of it narratively, but what about presentation? It doesn't matter how well written a story is or how interesting a story is if it's presented awfully. Luckily, Kuro has only gotten better and better every single patch when it comes to presentation. Despite this quest being a glorified trip down Iuno's memories, we had so many different methods of storytelling being utilized. The camera work was phenomenally done. Conversations didn't drag on in my opinion. Nobody really overstayed their welcome. They utilized high quality 2D art and fully animated cutscenes. And the scenery, oh my god, the scenery was beautiful. A lot of blue was used here, and it makes sense why. Iuno is a moon and water based character, so the blue hue of moonlight reflecting off a calming water surface was present nearly everywhere. The character moments too. Every single time we got to just sit with Iuno and look at the scenery, I would turn the HUD off and just take it all in. Genuinely, it was beautiful. I also like the little hand-holding thing they had going on. Iuno isn't really on my radar when it comes to quote-unquote waifus, but as soon as we held her hand though, the first thing that popped in my head was, I have got to do this with Augusta. It was a cute little add-on, and I wouldn't mind seeing it again, or I wouldn't mind it being a feature or something that we can do in the open world with any of our characters. The presentation was also top-notch, but there's one thing I didn't really care for, and that was the quick time events. They aren't like offensively bad or anything like that. I just personally didn't care for them. That's my only criticism really. I enjoyed everything else. Gameplay wise, this update didn't bring much. Whimpering Waste and the Tower both got some major updates, but for me, it didn't really change my clears. Whimpering Waste took a few tries to S rank, but once I did, I turned off that godforsaken mode. They added 2 new floors to the tower, which were fun to do, but they didn't provide anything mind-blowingly new. Although there's a bit of drama right now about those 2 new towers. Some people are saying that they're shilling new units or specific units a little bit too hard with them. Some people are talking about like HP inflation. There's some conversations going on here, but I don't know. I personally didn't really feel it or experience it. I was just able to clear as normal, so I don't really have any valuable input to give there. There's also some new leisure events, which I usually skip. I really don't care about leisure events, but that's all really. That's pretty much everything we got in this patch. It wasn't really like a super huge patch, but I think it was good for what we got. The reason why that patch was kind of light is because the next patch we're getting is huge. I believe 2.7 is going to be the finale of the Septimont story, and then 2.8 will be the setup for 3.0, and that's where things are going to get freaky. Overall, banger update. Let's just call a spade a spade. They haven't really missed since 2.0. It's been an amazing patch after amazing patch. The hype for 2.7 and 2.8 are through the roof right now. So let's hope they can stick the landing on this Septimont story, because I cannot wait to see how this ends. I want all the characters that we've met from 2.0 up to now to like be in some type of Avengers Endgame type of collaboration. Everybody fighting together to fight back the Dark Tide and the Thernodian. That would be great. Alright, that's gonna be all for me. Have yourself a damn good one.